a third type of persons who are required to be registered under section 24 are the persons who are required to pay tax under reverse charge. So I also told you earlier what is reverse charge. Basically, under GST, supplier of goods or services is required to pay the GST on the supplies made by him. This is called forward charge mechanism. But in some cases, like in case of services provided by advocates or by the persons who are transporting goods, this liability has been cast on the receiver of supply of goods or services. That means a company taking services of an advocate is required to pay GST on such services. So in this case, when receiver is liable to pay GST, this is called reverse charge mechanism. Similarly, in case where goods are transported by a transport operator, then the person who is receiving services is required to pay GST on such transportation of goods. So these persons are specified under GST. Then these receiver of goods are required to pay GST under reverse charge. So there is one thing, that suppose such person is not otherwise liable to pay GST, but because he is compulsory required under this section, so therefore he has to get itself registered and pay GST on purchases made by him and use that GST as input tax credit and adjust it on the supplies made by him. But here there is one exception, that the persons engaged exclusively in making supplies, tax on which is liable to be paid on reverse charge, are exempt from registration. So that means advocates who are only doing these services are not required to be registered. Then we come to category 4, persons who are required to pay tax under section 9 subsection 5. Basically, these persons are electronic commerce operators, or in short form ECO, who are required to pay tax in respect of intra-state or local sale or local supplies of specified categories of services supplied through it. The specified services include transportation of passengers, accommodation and housekeeping services. So in this you can take example of Make My Trip. Make My Trip is an online platform, we can say it electronic commerce operators, and different hotels are registered with Make My Trip and they provide accommodation services to different persons. So in this case, the Make My Trip is required to be registered under GST because it is providing online platform to different service providers. So this is applicable on ECOs which are providing services like transportation of passengers or accommodation or housekeeping services. Then fifth category of persons is NRTP, that is non-resident taxable persons making taxable supply. Then section 2 subsection 77 states that NRTP is a person who occasionally undertakes transactions involving supply of goods or services or both, whether as principal or agent or in any other capacity, but who has no fixed place of business or residence in India. So, suppose a company which is registered in Singapore is providing supply of goods or services in India, and if it has no fixed place of business or residence in India, then it is required to be registered under GST.